All right, good evening. Welcome to Pre-Calculus, and we are looking at test three, test inventory. Okay, so here I've got sitting a triangle. We've got different sides here, and we've got X, Y, and a Z for our angles, and it says we have to figure out what the angles are. Since this is a side kind of a problem, we know that we have to go ahead and we have to figure this out using law of cosines. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing I did, made an additional little triangle over here so that I could just work this on one page and then see what's going to happen. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is figure out what angle x is. So in order to do that, we have to say we have c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared minus 2ab times the cosine of the angle between them. We'll say this angle x. Okay, so we'll say this one's c, this one's a, this one's b for this problem. Okay, we're going to do them all this way. So we're going to say we have 2.7 squared, which is equal to 3.8 squared plus 5.1 squared minus 2 times, and we have to go ahead and get our 3.8 times our 5.1. Yeah, 5.1. Okay. And then we have times cosine of the angle between them, cosine of x. So we'll go ahead and we're going to say this. We have 2.7 squared minus 3.8 squared minus 5.1 squared. This is equal to negative twice of 3.8, okay, times a 5.1. Okay, double checking to make sure that my sides are matching up even, times cosine of x. We're solving for cosine of x. We're going to go ahead and divide here. So we're going to say this is 2.7 squared minus 3.8 squared minus 5.1 squared divided by negative 2 times 3.8 times 5.1. We'll say that's equal to my cosine of x. We're going to go ahead and use the calculator for a moment here. All right, let's go ahead and do this. All right, so we're going to go ahead and use our calculator for a moment. As soon as I find it, there it is. I know this is a fancy calculator than you guys are allowed to have, but I'm not going to use it for anything that requires anything fancy here. So we have 2.7 squared minus 3.8 squared minus 5.1 squared. Okay, I'm just going to do the numerator here. So that's going to be equal to negative 33.16, negative 33.16. Let's see, divided by, let's go ahead and do the bottom. So we have 2 times 3.8 times 5.1, and we'll just see what that is going to be. It's negative, by the way, but we'll go ahead and know that. That's going to be 38.76. All right. Since that's going to be negative, the negatives are going to cancel, so we can go ahead and say this is equal to cosine of x. Cosine of x equals, and we'll just go ahead and type this quotient into the calculator, 33.16 divided by 38.76, and we'll say equals. And then we have to say 0.8555. 0.8555. We're not going to retype that into the calculator. We're just going to say second function cosine, to be negative, inverse rather. Second function answer. That way I don't have to type things back in. And we'll go ahead and say equals. And we ended up with x equals 31.18 degrees. All right, just double check. Yeah, 38.18 degrees. We had said go to two decimal places. All right, great. First one is done. Now we have to deal with the next one. Now, the smart thing to do, the astute student will notice that now you have a side angle side kind of a situation. We can use law of sines here, and you should use law of sines here. I am not going to do it because we probably need more practice with law of cosines, so I'm just going to keep working my way through law of cosines here. But you are more than welcome at this point to say, I don't know what this guy's doing. I'm going to use law of sines because it's easier. You should. Okay, we'll just go ahead and figure out the rest of it. Law of cosines because we'll get the practice. All right. So the next one up here, we did 2.7 was equal to these guys. So we'll go ahead and we'll just change this around. So we are going to say that we want 3.8 squared is equal to 2.7 squared plus, what is that one? 5.1 squared minus 2 times 2.7 times 5.1 Where's my 2.7 and 5.1? We're going to say that's times cosine of y. Okay, so we have to go ahead and figure out what that is. We're solving for cosine y at this point. So that's going to be 3.8 squared minus 2.7 squared minus 5.1 squared. I'm just moving these guys to the other side of the equation here. And this is equal to negative twice, and we have 2.7, 5.1 times cosine of y. Let's go ahead and divide. So we're going to say this is 3.8 squared minus 2.7 squared minus 5.1 squared, all divided by negative 2 times 2.7 times 5.1. This is equal to cosine of y. This is equal to, we're going to do the numerator and the denominators here. So we're going to say, what do we have here? We have clear. That's what we're going to do first. We have 3.8 squared. Okay, there we go. Okay, minus 2.7 squared. Okay, minus 5.1 squared. Okay, I'm just going to stop there and figure out what that's going to be equals. There you go. Is negative 18.86. It's negative 18.86 divided by, let's see what's on the bottom. We've got 2, nope, how about 2? I want 2, 2, there you go, times 2.7 times 5.1. I'm just kind of, again, double checking my tops and my bottoms to make sure they're matching up. There's a negative on this that I didn't type in, but that's going to be negative 27.54, negative 27.54. Notice these guys were both negative. The negatives cancel, so we don't have to worry about the calculator with that. So we'll say cosine of y equals, and then we'll just go ahead and deal with this quotient. So we have 18.86 divided by 27.54 equals, and I got 0.6848, 0.6848, 6848. Okay, and we'll go ahead and say what y equals. So we'll go ahead and use the calculator for that. So we'll say second function cosine, or are we? There it is. And now we're going to get our answer. Okay, and we're going to say equals to that. So that's 46.78 degrees. So 46.78, 46.78 degrees. All right, so we have two of these angles. Last one, and I'm sorry that's taking so long. So we have X and Y. And again, at this point, could you make sure that they're going to add up to 180 and subtract? Yes, you could. I'm going to do it a slightly different way because I'm trying to test to make sure that I've done this correctly. We're going to do all the angles with law of cosine so that we can add them up and get to be 180. So there's a reason why I'm doing it, and that's to be able to check my work at the end here to make sure that I'm not doing circular arguments. So let's go ahead and deal with this. We've got 5.1 squared is equal to, what do we have? 3.8 plus 2.7. So we have 3.8 squared plus 2.7 squared minus twice. Here's my 3.8, 2.7 times my cosine of z, I believe. Yep. Okay, and we're going to solve for cosine of z. So we have 5.1 squared minus 3.8 squared minus 2.7 squared, all divided by, I've got a negative 2, 3.8 times 2.7 on the downstairs there, okay, because this is all time. This is, we're dividing by this, all of this business right here, and putting it on the bottom. Let's go ahead and jump to the calculator and see if we're working through with this thing. All right, so here we have a 5.1 squared. Oh, there we go. Oh, come back here. Here's my calculator. 5.1 squared minus a 3.8 squared minus a 2.7 squared. And I'm just going to go ahead and get this on the top and say, okay, that's 4.28 here. So equals cosine of z, which is equal to 4.28. It's positive. That means when I figure out the bottom, it's going to be negative. So I want 2 times 3.8 times 2.7. Okay, and that's going to be a negative 20.52. So negative 20.52. Okay, so next, last thing we have to do is figure out, okay, we have cosine z equals. So we're going to say we have clear, we've got negative 4.28 divided by, and I've got 20.52 on the bottom here. And that's going to be my cosine z equals. It's 0.2. It's negative 0.2, which means we're going to get an obtuse angle, 0.20, say 209. Okay. So the last, well, not the last, but the last thing we're going to do here, second function cosine, second function answer, and that's going to be my value for this. And I ended up with 102 point, what was this? 102.04 degrees. Okay, well, let's just go ahead and add these guys up. So let's see what we had here. I have 31.18 plus what was the second angle I got was a 46.78. Okay, plus a 102.04 degrees. We're just going to add those up to see if we actually ended up with 180 degrees. That way I know I did this right. 31.18 plus 46.78 degrees plus 102.04 degrees. Look at that. We got 180 on the nose. I feel pretty confident that we did that right, so I'm pretty happy about that. Hey, thank you very much for watching me muddle through the entire law of cosines. There were faster ways to do this, but I wanted to make sure that I got my answers and it could verify what the answers were supposed to be independently. So if you use law of sines to get through it faster, if you got two of the angles and said 180 minus, that's fine. But like I said, for this one, I wanted to make sure that these three angles I got would add up to 180 degrees, realizing that I did the law of cosines correctly. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Take care.